listener production.
Hi, Natarsha Belling with you and welcome to the afternoon edition of The Briefing. Coming up in our deep dive, the new push by Victoria to legislate working from home. But are the proposed Australian First laws just a bid to win votes in the lead up to their state election? Or will it give employees new rights? We break down all the legal ramifications with a top employment lawyer in just a moment. But first, let's check the afternoon headlines this Monday, the 4th of August. The Prime Minister and New South Wales Premier have both praised the tens of thousands of protesters for the weekend's peaceful Gaza rally across the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Anthony Albanese says yesterday's demonstration was exactly, quote, what democracy should look like: peaceful, passionate and loud. On Saturday, the New South Wales Supreme Court ruled the protest could go ahead, with the Prime Minister saying he is thankful it did not descend into chaos.
To me, the important takeout was that it was peaceful. What I don't support is when there have been breaches of the peace, which has occurred in the past. But what we saw yesterday was a peaceful demonstration.
It's believed Mr Albanese is also seeking a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Our new Federal Police Commissioner has been announced, with Chrissy Barrett saying she is honoured to take on the prestigious role. It's the first time a female has been appointed to the national position, and Miss Barrett will replace outgoing Commissioner Reece Kershaw. Miss Barrett will take over in October.
As Commissioner, I will ensure the AFP continues to keep Australians safe, protects the vulnerable, and identifies and disrupts an emerging cohort of criminals who have mixed motivations and threaten our national security.
And Prince Harry has denied explosive new claims he gave his uncle, Prince Andrew, a bloody nose after a fight. A new book on the disgraced Duke of York claims the princes ended up in a physical fight in 2013 after a heated argument. The book, called Entitled, also alleges Prince Andrew told his nephew his marriage to Meghan Markle wouldn't last longer than a month. A spokesperson for the Duke of Sussex has denied the latest allegations. Now it's time to get into our deep dive on a new push by the Victorian Labor government to protect employees' rights to work from home. Victorian Premier Jacinta Allen outlined the plans over the weekend to develop what they claim are legal protections under Victorian state law.
We are going to move to make your right to work from home, make it a right, because we know that there are some who want to take that away. I spoke to a worker last week, James, who had her 1 day a week working from home arrangements taken off her, and she was told about this. She was delivered this message while she was on a Teams call with her boss, who was working from home themselves.
That audio thanks to the ABC. And in this episode, we break down all the details with employment lawyer Graeme Watson and where this new proposal leaves employees. Graeme, thanks so much for joining us. Can you explain what this current move by the Victorian Labor government means regarding working from home?
Well, it's very hard to say so, Tash. At this stage, there's been an announcement, but not a lot of detail as to how it could happen. And those of us who are familiar with the legal aspects are asking a lot of questions about how it could possibly work. So if I could summarise the general situation, employment is really governed by the federal jurisdiction. There are very comprehensive laws under the Fair Work Act. The corporation's power is being used by the Commonwealth Government. It's something that both major parties have utilised in recent times to have a single national system of employment laws. And Victoria has enhanced that by referring its direct powers to the Commonwealth to legislate in that area. And indeed, it's a major initiative to reduce red tape and different laws applying across different states. Many employers now operate in multiple states, and to have a single national system is an important productivity driver. The announcement, however, along the lines that if you can do your job from home, we'll give you the right to do so, by the state government seems to come up very directly against the federal laws. And we have a provision of the Constitution that says that federal laws prevail over any inconsistent state laws. And it looks like a direct clash, which would mean that the state laws, if that's how it was actually framed, would be invalid. And the federal laws, of course, prevail. Now, the Victorian government has said that they're going to perhaps look at the Victorian Equal Opportunity Act as a way of legislating in this area. And that is a law that operates in conjunction with federal laws, so discrimination provisions, remedies exist in the state and federal area, and they're not designed to prevail one over the other. They can operate in conjunction, and there's choices of remedies. But that's based on there being an identified ground of discrimination, whether it's race, sex, gender, marital status, or the like. Here, there's not been identified any ground of discrimination. And perhaps when the detail comes out, maybe we'll see something of that. We'll see that employees with caring responsibilities, for example, might be the ground of discrimination where a remedy is created. But still, it's going to come up very directly against federal laws. There is a provision of the Fair Work Act which allows employees to request flexible working arrangements. That might be in terms of hours, or it might be in terms of location. And an employer is required to consider that request, and these laws are operating in that space at the moment.
So to break it down very simply, Graeme, if we can, this doesn't seem to actually be a massive win for employees, because that seems to be what the Victorian government is putting forward. But legally, the federal government has jurisdiction over these type of laws and regulations. Is that correct?
Yes, the federal government has a jurisdiction and it has laws in place which are operating to deal with these issues. So is it a big change? Unlikely. Is it open to the Victorian government to legislate as well? Well, huge question marks for the reasons I've just mentioned. So is it a realistic proposition of any significance? Well, there's huge doubts about that.
So, Graeme, how does this work for both the employee and the employer? Because as you very well know, every business is different, every job's different, every workplace is different. So how, as a small business right now, how do you kind of find your way in this very, very grey area with working from home right now?
Well, I think it's very challenging. The best practice is to have open dialogue between the employer and the employee to work out the respective needs. And there are different needs and different wishes, etc. Some jobs obviously require attendance at a workplace. And then it becomes a little bit more optional in other areas of employment. As you say, every area is different. Very difficult for a small retail establishment to allow people working from home and just close the doors of the shop. So there's those sort of situations. Then you get positions like a law firm where you can work from a variety of different locations, but is it desirable in all of the circumstances? What are the benefits that come from working in close proximity and interacting with your work colleagues and benefiting from that interaction? So most employers are addressing the nature of hybrid work, dealing with their employees, endeavouring to provide flexibility and also be responsive to needs insofar as that's possible. So that's what's happening in the community, a very widespread basis. And you like to think that that is the mechanism to deal with these matters rather than legal routes. And you like to think that employers and employees don't get wrapped up in large legal wrangles and test cases and constitutional challenges. I mean, that might benefit the lawyers, but who else does it really benefit?
Great point. Graeme, in regards to as an employee right now, before this legislation, proposed legislation may come into effect in Victoria, what rights do I currently have as an employee to have flexible working arrangements or to be able to work from home?
Well, the starting point is your requirement to work as directed and work in accordance with your contract of employment. And the employer will determine those matters in terms of the offer that is made to you as an employee, and there will be work requirements that are set out in that offer of employment. That's the base system that governs the matter. Then, as I mentioned, there are remedies available if an employee wants flexible working arrangements, including location. And that's in the Federal Fair Work Act, and an ability to request those arrangements and an ability to seek an independent determination of that dispute if there can't be agreement through the balancing factors, fairness and reasonable business requirements. So reasonableness is something that needs to be assessed. Generally, it will be seen differently by different people, but it can't be an artificial, arbitrary requirement. An employer that simply says no or doesn't even respond to a request can't expect to have that position upheld. They've really got to have a sound reason based on reasonable business grounds to refuse that request. And that's the current situation. They're relatively new laws. They're enacted by Labor government federally, and they're playing out in practice. There are cases going through the system. Some employees are being successful and some not successful. And most of the disputes are resolved through dialogue or conciliation rather than arbitration. And again, that's a sensible remedy.
We really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks so much, Graeme.
My pleasure, Tash.
That was employment lawyer Graeme Watson. And that's it for this episode of the afternoon edition of The Briefing. We'd love you to subscribe or follow us on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast, and we'll be back in your feed tomorrow morning. I'm Natarsha Belling. Thanks for your company.